This CyCast is provided to you by the Iowa State Letter Winners Club, bridging the gap between legend and legacy by engaging in our past to invest in our future.
Welcome everyone to our latest CyCast, and we have an incredible guest in Melvin Ejim, one of the greatest basketball players in Iowa State history. And I know all Cyclone fans know who Melvin is. In his 4 years at Iowa State, he helped resurrect this program. When he got here, the program hadn't been to the NCAA tournament in 6 years. And by the time he was done, they made 3 straight NCAA tournament appearances. And by the time Melvin was a senior, he was Big 12 Player of the Year, first team All-American, and literally one of the greatest players in Iowa State history. And now we can also say our latest Iowa State Athletics Hall of Famer. Melvin Ejim, welcome to the show.
So, Venus, it's great to be here. Man, what we talked about, what a great 4 years. We were able to accomplish so much as a team. We were able to kind of put Iowa State on the map, and now we're starting to see some of the fruits of the labor that we put in to set the foundation for the program. So it's so amazing to see all the success that they've had since I've been there, and the continued success that we're going to have. It's been awesome, and I'm happy to be here. Happy to be talking with you.
Yeah. Well, Melvin, what was your first reaction when Jamie Pollard, Iowa State Athletics Director, told you that you're inducted to the Hall of Fame?
Man, I was shocked, man. As a player, as an athlete, as somebody who does this as a living, you always want to be recognized for the work that you put in. And at school and university, it didn't feel like work. It was something that I just loved to do. It was something that was really fun. It was a passion, and there was, I wanted to represent myself and our school. And to be recognized for it now is to be, one of the best people to have played or to have represented our school at a high level, and just to be recognized by other players, other peers of mine in different sports. I think it's an amazing award. It's an amazing honor. I'm extremely humbled, and it kind of just for me, it's just validation that I did the right thing. I projected myself, and I represented myself in the right way, and people responded with that. People connected with that. People appreciated that, and they're recognizing me for that. So it's amazing, and like I said, I'm extremely humble, and I was shocked. Like, honestly, I didn't know that was gonna happen today at all.
Yeah.
And it was a pleasure seeing Jamie and talk to him again. After so many years. So it's been great.
Well, you're definitely deserving, Melvin. And let's kind of go back to the beginning. Your family migrated from Nigeria to Canada before you were born, obviously, right?
Yeah. My grandfather
Yep.
came, and they'd gone back and came back, and had a couple of aunts and uncles that were born in Canada, but majority of my family on both sides are from Nigeria, and came over to Canada.
Yeah, and growing up in Canada, how did you get interested in basketball? Because I think that you came. It was a perfect time because that's when Canadian basketball really started to grow, didn't it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, growing up, I played so many different sports. I was really into track and field. I played volleyball, I played soccer, and usually, my family being Nigerian, soccer was our biggest sport. My uncle was a big soccer coach. My grandfather had played back in Nigeria, and all of our family was really soccer, driven.
Yep.
And I just kind of was that tall kid in the family that wasn't, was fast and strong, but didn't quite have the footwork. And my uncle was kind of like, hey, like, why don't you play basketball? I've been playing, and you're kind of really too tall for soccer, and maybe you should try, playing basketball. And I got involved with some um, local organizations. AAU teams at the time was called Malton Mavericks, and they seen me, and I wasn't very good at all, but they're like, hey, you're pretty tall, so I think you can help us. And
Yep.
I kind of just fell in love with it. I started, working hard. They, were tough and helped us develop, and I kind of started. It all started from there, and then I was able to join AAU teams and grow with that team, and really, uh, go to a place I never really thought I would be. I never thought it would take me anywhere. It was kind of something that I wanted to do, and I just started getting good at it and recognized for it. So, yeah, just it started kind of with my uncle, who kind of pushed me, and then started pushing the rest of my family, and now, you know I played professionally. Both my brothers play professionally. I
Yeah.
have one brother who's Canadian championship champion. My sister goes to the University of Gonzaga, and she's having an amazing year.
Yep.
And then I have two younger sisters who are both athletically inclined, we say, and are playing basketball, volleyball, and different sports. So uh, you know, basketball has been a huge part of our family, and I think I attribute it a lot to my uncle who kind of nudged us into that
Yeah.
direction. But we've been able to have, as a family, a really good career, in athletics.
Yeah. And then you started playing prep school basketball in the States, and you went to a couple prep schools, but your final prep school was Brewster Academy, right?
Yep, yep.
And what are your first memories of when you met this assistant coach from Iowa State named T.J. Otzelberger, who at the time was a young assistant coach, hadn't really coached much in college at that time, but he made a connection with you, didn't he?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we had some really great players on that team. We had Thomas Robinson.
Yep,
We had a guy named Andrew Fitzgerald who went to Oklahoma. Reggie Moore went to Washington State. Simeon Marsalis, Javon Crump. We had a lot of really good players on that team. And, we'd have so many people in gym, Kansas,
yeah,
Duke,
yeah,
Iowa State, North Carolina. And at the time I was young, I was just getting over here. And I said, well, you know what, these guys, they're here for Thomas. They're here to see this guy play. And, but, if they're here, I might as well try to, put my best foot forward and see if I have a chance. And like you said, TJ approached me and said, hey, I love the way you play. I love your toughness. I love the energy you brought. And I was kind of just like, wow, like, this guy kind of he gets what I could do,
yeah, yeah.
and slowly we started developing a relationship. Craig Brackens had went to Brewster Academy and was somebody
That's
that
right.
I was seeing play, and we had a relationship there. And I saw, wow, like the way that his career has been able to go, and how he's been able to play at Iowa State. I think that seems great. We had different games, but I loved the school. I loved what was going on, and really and truly, I really developed a great relationship with TJ. He really made me feel like Iowa State would be a place where I could really develop. I could really focus on school, where I was going to have a great opportunity
Yeah,
to become a better player, and honestly, that with him in my corner, and I felt like I could do it. I'd be in a place where I'd be able to really set myself apart, as
yeah,
opposed to some of these other schools. And I think the relationship is what really got me there. And once I got there, I fell in love. With the the culture, um, which at first was needed some revamping, and I think that our
sure.
program was able to do that. But just with the people, the school, it just it really just made me feel at home. I felt comfortable. I felt like this was a place where I could really learn, where I could really develop, where I had all the tools that I needed. And then I think it was kind of a match made in heaven.
Yeah. Well, you signed with Iowa State when Greg McDermott was the head coach,
Yep.
and then he left to go to Creighton. Basically, I mean, I think it was in April, late April. I'm getting my months mixed up, but it was basically almost when the school season was over.
Yeah.
What like I would guess that the most people today would probably get out of the letter intent and choose to go to another school, right? It just kind
Yeah.
of that's just the kind of environment today. What made you stay at Iowa State? You didn't know Coach Hoiberg at all, and he became the next head coach, and you honored your commitment and stayed at Iowa State. How did that whole process go out for that whole decision?
Yeah. I mean, obviously, like you said, like in developing a relationship with TJ, I also developed a great relationship with Coach McDermott, which I still have. He's a
Yeah,
great guy. He's always kind of been a guy in my corner, which I really appreciated. So at the time, I'm still young. I'm new to this. The people who I thought were going to be kind of leading the way for me were not necessarily going to be there, and I was like, I don't know what I should do, right? And 100%, TJ will tell you the story. He called me and he said, "Hey Mel, our coach is leaving, and we're having a new coach. His name is Fred Hoiberg. I don't know if you know, but he played in the NBA, and he's going to be a first-time coach. And this is a little bit about him." And I wasn't sure, but I said, TJ, I trust you. what do you think? What do you think about Fred? What do you think about the program? And TJ honestly looked at me and said, "Hey, Mel, if it was anybody else, I don't know if I would tell you to stay, and I don't know if I would have stayed, but because it's Fred and because I know what he's about and some of the stuff, I'm deciding to stay, and I think you should too." And
Wow.
that's all I needed. Yeah. And I was like, you know what? TJ was someone I trusted 100%. And I was like, you know what? If that's how strongly you feel about it, and if that's what you think would be the best, no strings attached, best, opinion of what would be best for my game and my opportunity. And he said, yeah, I think you should stay. If it was anybody else, I'd probably leave. But because it's him, I'm going to stay, and I think you should stay.
Yeah.
And I said, you know what? If that's the case, I will. And I think that it was the best decision because Fred was, I think, light years ahead of his time in the way that uh, he used players, his understanding of the game. He brought so much that NBA mentality and scoring and spacing mentality that guys weren't used to. And as a head coach, X and O coach, I think he was way ahead of his time and someone that was able to really instill a lot of basketball knowledge and teaching. And then we also had TJ and the rest of the staff who were there, who were great people who helped, I think mold and reinforce what he was doing and bringing that toughness to some of those teams that I think you can still see, in the way that he
Yep.
plays and in the way he operates. And like honestly, it was the best decision I ever made. And I 100% attribute it to TJ because he was the reason why I stayed. That's all it is. Simply, he was the only reason why I stayed. Yeah, but I'm
Well,
glad I did.
yeah, and we're obviously Iowa State fans. We're really glad you did too. And your freshman year, which was Coach Hoiberg's first year, 2010-11. You know, obviously it was a learning process for everyone because uh, the team lost a lot of players, and they were picked bottom of the Big 12. But you could sense right away that even though uh, conference wise didn't finish very high, but your freshman year you're starting right away, and things started changing, didn't they? I mean, I don't know if you felt that down the road that this team's going to turn it around.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you mentioned, throughout that year it was very difficult, just because we didn't perform the way we wanted to. But I think there was glimpses that you see throughout that year where it was like, hey, there's something here, And even for me, I felt like the way that Fred organized our team and the way that we were playing, with some of the guys and the success they were having, I said, wow, like if we have this right group or the right talent, I think that this can go really well. And I think it was about developing that talent and bringing in guys that were going to fit into the culture and were open minded and able to come in and play the way that we wanted to. And yeah, I definitely think after that first year for me, also it was a great opportunity because I got thrown in the fire right away,
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I got to go in and play against the Morris Twins my first year in college and to play against some great Missouri teams and Colorado teams and the Big 12. I mean, just thrown into the fire and having valuable, impactful minutes and time. I think it really developed me, and really gave me an opportunity to see, wow, this is the type of level that I'm at. These are the players we're at. And in order to compete and to do well, we've got to step it up, me individually and as a team. But that year was a huge year. I think that year was a big year in terms of mentality building, in terms of understanding what culture we wanted to be a part of and what culture we wanted to have. And yeah, that first year was huge. It was huge.
Yeah.
It was monumental, honestly. Yeah.
Well, and then going into your sophomore year, Melvin, a lot would changed because Iowa State had a bunch of transfers that were sitting out as red shirts, or and Chris Allen, Royce White,
Mm.
Chris Babb, and Anthony Booker, and so there was much higher expectations your sophomore year. Well, at the beginning of the year, you kind of started slow, and something clicked, and I was obviously covering you guys at that time, and I remember the Mississippi Valley State game. Right. It was the last non-conference game, and
Mm.
I think we won by two. And I remember going into like, oh my gosh, we're going into conference, and I don't know, but something changed in the locker room, didn't it, Melvin? Because it's like I think you guys decided we're good. We're going to figure out how to play together. Did you notice something right before conference season where you guys all got together and said, hey, we're going to do this?
We had tons of team meetings, and like you said, that year it was a really strange year because we had a lot of incoming talent and guys who
Yeah,
could really play at high levels, were impactful players. And I think at the beginning we just quite weren't sure how we were going to all be able to be successful. I think there was still a bit of ego, a bit of selfishness, and we had a great player in Royce White and Chris Allen, who were both, Chris had already been playing at Michigan State and been in huge games before. Royce was
absolutely.
coming in.
Yep.
We had Booker, who was also there. Who else am I thinking of? And then we also had
Chris
we
Babb.
had Chris Babb come in, who'd been successful at was it Penn State or yeah, Penn
Yeah,
State.
Penn State.
And then we also had Scotty Christopherson, who for the past couple of years has been one of those guys who has been the staple. And me and some of the other guys coming off the bench are still trying to develop their roles, and we're young and up and coming, but we still were trying to figure out how the best way to play. And I think that, like you said, when we got towards conference play, we figured out, okay, no matter how it's going to work, we're just going to figure it out. Like, it might not be super rosy and working
Yeah,
out
yeah,
perfectly, but we're just going to find a way to figure it out. We're going to gut it out. We're just going to figure it out. And at the end of the game, we're going to win. And I think we just kind of started developing a little bit of that grit. We started playing off of, Royce's, amazing talent and Chris's talent. Bad stepped up as a defender and really just started, bringing another element to our team. And I think every person kind of contributed and figured out what their role was supposed to be. And I think at the beginning was a lot of overlapping roles, and towards conference play we kind of figured and settled, and we're
yeah.
like, okay, this is who we are, this is how we can win, and we started we committed to that, and I think we had a great run and had some great moments. And that was a very special team. That was one of those teams that I feel underneath it wasn't super functional, but once we got on that court,
Yeah,
once we got
yeah,
on that court, everything kind of just clicked together, and we were able to
yeah.
have some success. Yeah.
And I don't want to forget Tyrus McGee, who was a
Oh,
junior college.
absolutely,
Yeah,
Tyrus.
he
Yeah,
was actually a junior college transfer. But yeah, we brought. I mean, you had Tyrus McGee for the first time too, and I mean, we all know what a hell of a player he was. And
yeah,
it's funny, Melvin, because a lot of Cyclone fans, I think, forget because it's been such a good run in the last, obviously the last close to 15 years. But Iowa State hadn't made the tournament in 7 years. There was a 7 year gap, and I don't want to say Hilton Magic was dormant, but there wasn't a lot of Hilton Magic memories during that 7 years. And I always like to tell people that Hilton Magic came back on the Scotty Christopherson banked shot against Oklahoma State, in my opinion. What do you
that
think?
was a
What
big
do you
one.
remember from that game? Because I just remember when that shot went in, it was almost like, here we go again. We're going to win these close games. And everything changed. And it's been that way almost now to this day after that game.
Yeah, honestly, that was when I think, like you said, that's when I really felt the Hilton Magic, when I really felt the crowd really explode, the support, and just the like unwavering commitment,
Yeah.
to the program. And like I felt like throughout that season and the prior season, we had flashes of, we had glimpses of, we've had really great games, we had really great atmospheres. But that, I think, was when we actually start to believe it ourselves. Like, you know what? Like, we really can do this. And as a program, I felt like the community really was like, you know what? Those Cyclones, we could do it. We had something to be proud of, something that we thought that could do something. Again, like they did years previously.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just remember him hitting that shot and just not believing that it went in. But I mean, Scotty was such an unbelievable player. Ty was such an unbelievable player. There's been so many huge shots. I feel like, I think about Nas Long shot against Oklahoma State my senior night.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
There's so many big players, guys, who contributed to it. But it's so amazing to see now with all the success that we're having. I think the latest poll is top eight. And I'm just so proud that I have a university that I could talk about so proudly when I speak with my teammates, with people. They say, hey, look at the Cyclones, look at how we're doing, and look at the program that we've been able to build. And I think it started from those those years where we had a little bit of struggle and we had to develop that character and that identity, and we're really starting to see how far we've come. And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Well, and then, after that Oklahoma State game, you had some big wins with, beat Kansas in
Cleveland.
Hilton Coliseum I think for the first time. I think it was like 7 years, first time that Iowa State had beaten Kansas in Hilton. You had a big win against Baylor. I remember Royce made the baseline jumper to beat Kansas State. And then we get down to the end of the year, and we're probably going to make the tournament. And I remember this because we actually had the selection show in Hilton Coliseum.
Yep,
And
yep.
how amazing was that moment for you guys to hear Iowa State's name called for the first time in 7 years with all those fans there? That had to have been a pretty cool moment in your life.
That was awesome. You know why? Because to be honest, I hadn't really known much about Selection Sunday, or even, I knew a little bit of the NCAA tournament once when I got to high school and kind of understood a little bit more. But this is where you kind of wanted to go. And the year before we hadn't made the tournament, so in March, spring break, I was just
Yeah.
like, okay, what's going on? So I kind of didn't know what to I kind
Yeah.
of didn't know what to expect, right?
Yeah.
And to have so many fans behind us, because I remember we were sitting front row, we were watching it on the screen, and we had tons of fans behind us. And I was just like, so what is this really about? And as we sat there, the anticipation, the yells when we got selected, and how happy we were. I was like, wow, this is what it's about. This is amazing. And to be able to share with our fans and the people who've been supporting us the year before when we were terrible, and then this year now when
Yeah.
we are starting to turn it around and get it together, I thought was a beautiful moment. And yeah, I thought it was great. That was one of the, I think after that we started to expect, that
Yeah.
we'd be
Yeah.
there. But in that moment, I don't think we took for granted that all the hard work that we put into it was able to get us to this point, and we were able to, try to see, how far we could go, and that we had played well enough to be there. So
Well, and then you guys make the NCAA tournament, Melvin, and you knock off defending national champion UConn in the first round, and actually Jim Calhoun's final game as a head
yeah,
coach. And then you got to play literally one of the greatest college basketball teams in the last 40 years
Kentucky, yeah,
in their home state
yeah.
with Anthony Davis, Kentucky. What do you remember from that game? Because we hung with them. We hung with them for a while, and I remember Royce having a phenomenal game. But that had to, so this is your sophomore year. That had to have been a really good experience for you because you couldn't get much bigger than that.
Yeah, I think throughout my, I think throughout my career, there's a lot of moments where I'm just like, these situations show to me like I belonged, or we belonged. You know what I mean? And I felt like I mentioned when I played the Morse Twins my first year, I was like, okay, these are some of the best players in our league, and
Yeah.
I'm being able to compete with them, and I'm able to, I feel like I belong. I might not be there, but I feel like I belong. Being in some of these bigger games, but in the Kentucky game as a team, I felt like after beating UConn, we felt like we belonged. We beat some great teams. We're here. We felt great, and now we're facing this amazing Kentucky team. And what I remember the most, it had nothing to do with the game, was that we were at the KFC Yum Arena, I think,
Yep.
and
Louisville.
the entire arena was blue with
It
like
was.
Kentucky blue. It was crazy, and I can't remember
Yeah.
how much this arena holds, but it was huge. But there was one sliver of red going up for Iowa State fans,
Yeah.
and I just remember saying, "Oh my goodness, like they're gonna get crushed." Like it was like it was it was this
Yeah.
sea of blue and this small sliver of red, but they had cheered for us so hard, and you could hear them, through this, through all the Kentucky fans, you could hear that support from the Iowa State fans, and I really felt like that was just a vivid memory that just stuck in my
Yeah.
mind. But I felt like that was also a moment for us where it was like, okay, we're playing against one of the best, if not the best team in the country, and we're in here and we belong. And Royce had an amazing game. I think he started off with two or three dunks. I remember an
Yeah.
offhand
Yeah.
dunk.
Yeah.
He made a couple of shots, and he was playing out of his mind. And for him, I can't speak for him, but I believe, I mean, that's when he really knew that, he had the ability and was going to be, a first round pick, and that he could play and compete with the best of them. And I think on a talent level, he could. Um, but for me, that was another moment in my career where I was like, you know what, we're playing one of the best teams, and we might have came a little bit short, but we definitely belonged. And I think that up until that first half, it was a really close game. And then Anthony Davis had a huge block and really turned the game. And they had playing Kentucky, and Kentucky's tough, and they had a really great team. But it was one of those moments I felt that for me myself personally, it showed that I felt like I belonged. I could play, compete with some of the best players. I could be, a part of a program that was amazing. And it kind of, for that next year, had me feeling in my mind like we played such a great team. Like all these other teams are great, but I know that we can compete with this high at the highest caliber. So, we've got to show that night in and night out.
Yeah. Well, Melvin, I just want to bring up a funny story. So after your first 2 years at Iowa State, and
Right.
obviously you're a starter, you're already showing that you're going to be a star. You are a star. You're a great player. Uh, we were pronouncing your name Ejim, and you remember this. And
Yeah.
as your sports information director, I was told your last name was Ejim, and for 2 years we called you Melvin Ejim. And I remember it was in the off season. I saw you in the hallway, and I overheard you say your name, and you said Melvin Ejim. And I went up to you and I said, Melvin, how do you pronounce your name? He goes, Ejim. I'm like, we've been mispronouncing your name for 2 years. And I just want to say I'm still sorry about that. I'm so sorry about that.
I mean, it's not, listen, it's no problem. Honestly, throughout my whole life, everyone, there's been Ejim, there's been Ejim. My last name is short form for Ejimafo. So
Okay.
we say Ejim, but we know that sometimes people might say Ejim. So it was never a big deal.
Okay. Well, I'm
But it
sorry.
was slightly funny at the time because I was like, yeah, but I appreciate you, asking and changing. I think from there on out, you guys got it right, and
We got
I
it
think
right
people
after
know.
that,
I
but
think people know it now too.
I'm
So.
still embarrassed for the first 2 years you played here. So anyway, so heading into your junior year, Melvin, you know, uh, once again, we lost a lot of good players because Royce White left and Chris Allen was gone. But you brought in two more transfers that sat out in Will Clyburn and Corey Lucius,
Hmm.
and so there's still a lot of talent. And I remember talking to Coach Otzelberger one time, and he had a meeting with you in the off season, and he kind of, and then you can help me out if I'm accurate on this. He kind of challenged you of like, hey, you could lead the league in rebounding. You have the skills, even though you're maybe considered undersized for a forward at 6'5", 6'6", but you could lead the league in rebounding, and he challenged you. Do you remember that meeting at all, or?
Yeah, it wasn't. Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, TJ. At the time, I don't think it came across as gently as you were trying to say, but he was basically telling me, you know, there's moments when you just have to do it. You got to go out there. There's things you could do, you should, could have. I think me and Naz say it all the time now. Um, and it's like there's things I know you should do. There's things I know you can do, but will you, right? And that was one of the things that TJ was like, what are you gonna actually gonna do once you get out there? I want to see you do it, but will you do it? And I kind of took that as an opportunity for myself to insert or to develop another part of my game, right?
Yeah,
We had, like you said, we had talented scorers, shooters. We had one of the best shooters in the country in Tyrus McGee. We had Corey Lucius, who had tons of experience in scoring. We had Will Clyburn, who goes on to have a great career and is having a great
absolutely,
career right now.
absolutely.
Chris Babb, and at the time I was feeling, where is my role? What can I do to help the team? And I seen that there was a void, defensively and rebounding, and that was an opportunity that I could be successful in, and I kind of just went after it, you know what I mean? And I think I started just saying, you know what, even if I can't make a shot, even if things aren't going good, I could get 3 or 4 rebounds. I could contribute another way, and it kind of just started just I think just steamrolling. I started off with a game with double double, and then it was just like I had another game with another double double,
Yep,
and then I was just like, all right, like if I get 4 or 5 rebounds, 6 offensive rebounds, I'm gonna get a couple baskets off of it, and I'm gonna turn that into a great offensive game, and it just kind of became second nature. It just kind of became another opportunity. Even though I might not make a shot, I could get a rebound and offense rebound and kick up for an extra three, and that extended the play. And I felt energized by those types of plays. I felt like I was, adding another element to the team. And Yeah, he did. He really challenged me to go out there to be better, to do more, and I'm grateful for that because that became another huge staple of my game. And I don't know if I led the league in rebounding that year or if it
You
was the
did.
next year. Was it that year?
It
Yeah,
was your junior
and
year, and Melvin, I always tell people it's one of the it's I mean it is an incredible, amazing accomplishment in Iowa State men's basketball history, because I think you and PJ Tucker are still the only players at
that
six
were
six and under to lead the Big
yeah.
12 in rebounding. Um, but yeah, what was that feeling? I mean, you actually went out, you did it, you led the Big 12 in rebounding, which anyone who knows basketball, that's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I wasn't like actively trying to do it. I really was just trying to win. You know what I mean? I was trying to do
Yeah,
everything that I could to win, and then um, at the end of it, they were like, "Oh, like you're actually leading leading the league in rebounding," and it's just something I started taking pride in, and um, yeah, it ultimately came down to just effort, and I think that I just wanted it. I wanted it more, and I think that I wanted to. Uh, Insert my game and be my presence to be felt, and that was the way that I could do it. But I mean, I guess I got to thank my teammates for missing so many shots because I was able to get some. I'm just joking, or
yeah,
at least the
no,
other team for making missing so many. But I mean, I think it comes down to when it comes to defense and rebound. I think it comes down to will, who wants it more, who's going to go out
yeah.
and fight for it, and I think that that was something that I always had in me, and I think TJ helped to bring that out, and Fred was
Yeah.
able to help bring that out of me, and I'm thankful for it because it's still a huge part of my character and my game, and who I am.
Well, your junior year, which is the 2012-13 season, we had a new player that was a freshman that year named Georges Niang. And what were your first impressions of this guy from Massachusetts that comes in and you're like, oh my gosh, first of all, this guy's got some offensive moves that we've probably never seen before. But what was your first impression of Georges Niang when he was a young, maybe I don't want to say innocent freshman at Iowa State?
No, I'd seen some of those moves before. George will tell you, and we played against each other in high school because I went to Bruce Academy. He went to Tilton High School,
That's right.
and he was playing, obviously up because he was so talented. And we had played a couple times, and he had some good games, and I was just like, man, this guy talks a lot of stuff, in the games. He's pretty chippy, he's pretty edgy, but he's a pretty talented player. But I think we beat them, and we ended up, winning the knapsack. Or actually, yeah, I think we beat them both times we played them. But his first time on campus, I was his host, and I remember Coach Fred being, "Hey, Mel, we got this guy named George Niang." I was, that name kind of sounds familiar, but he's from Massachusetts, and he's coming down,
Yeah.
and I'd like you to be his host and show him around, have a good time. And I was like, "Okay, cool." And I think they bring him on campus, and I see him for the first time, and I'm like, "Oh, I know exactly where I remember this guy from," and and it was great. So I had already kind of knew a little bit about him, and he knew a little bit about me. But George was such a special, talented player. Coming in as a freshman, he had so many tools that you weren't used to guys seeing. First of all, he
Yeah.
had tools that you weren't used to guys um, really having at a then anyways, he had such a beautiful hook shot and in between shot and touch,
Yep.
as a kind of 4 or 5 man that could shoot, put it down, but wasn't like a huge leaper or a giant body inside. He kind of just knew how to use his body and had real good feel for the game and touch for the game. And as a freshman, he was steps, he was really ahead of it, of
Yep.
guys that were his age. Um, but he was really talented. He was really fun to be around. He always brought really great energy, and I think he kind of made that situation a little bit lighter. He always kind of had it, fun,
Yeah.
and that's what you need sometimes. And coupled with his kind of really talented offensive ability, I think it was clear to see very early on that George was going to have a great career. He was going to be a great
Yeah.
Cyclone, and he's still having a great career. So it's a testament to him. But yeah, I definitely knew George. It was funny seeing him for the first time because it was like, wow, I remember this young kid who thinks he's hot stuff, and he ended up, being hot stuff. And I'm happy I got an opportunity to play a couple years with him and
Yeah.
to really instill some stuff on him, but to learn a lot of stuff from him too. So he's a great guy.
A game that stands out your junior year to me, it's getting late in the year. It's getting late February. We're on the bubble. I mean, I think most people are saying Iowa State's going to get in, but you can't start losing games this late in the year.
Yeah.
I remember you guys went down to Waco, a place where I don't think Iowa State had won in
it was a long time. I remember that.
Yeah, 15 years, and you have a monster game, 20 points, 12 boards, and I just remember you willing that team to victory, and you got the win. Do you remember that game at all? Do you know what stands out of that game?
I mean, now that you talk about it, I remember it. I remember winning, and I remember them saying, "Hey, Iowa State hasn't won here in like ages." And I think I don't know if we had mentioned that before the game or after the game, but I just remember there was a point in the game where I kind of just was like, "We're not going to lose this," you know what I mean? And
Yep.
we had such great players that they really made it easy, and we really knew how to play. And I don't know. I feel like in a lot of those games, we just kind of like the years before, we just kind of came together and we're like, we're not going to lose this. We're going to do everything we can, whether we have to get chippy, dirty, ugly, we're going to do it. And I felt that at that time, that was kind of where my game really flourished.
Yep.
When I was able to really be physical, really get after it, really extend plays, make extra plays, make shots. And I think it was kind of a combination of a lot of things. But yeah, I remember it. I remember that game just because it was like Iowa State's been here for a long time, and we haven't won at Baylor in a long
Yeah.
time. Yeah.
Well, Melvin, I could sit here and talk to you for 2 hours, so I better start.
You remember all of these games,
I got to
and
start
I'm
trimming
just
this
like,
down. I know, but I want to bring up one more game from your junior year, and I don't know why I'm laughing at it, but like, what were your memories of the at West Virginia when we're up 27 in the second half, and then with like 2 minutes to play, they cut it to 3. What do you remember from that game at West Virginia?
that was that was
your junior year, and what I remember was we had a 27-point second half lead, and West Virginia had cut it to 3 or 4 with like 2, and man, the crowd just going crazy.
I just remember. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I just remember at West Virginia, I hated playing at West Virginia. I felt like their fans were super like organized, but at the same time they were super chaotic, and it was always a tough place to play. And I'm starting to remember because I know we started off hot, and we had like a really good game, and then I don't even know how the game ended, but they did come back, and I know that anytime you give up a 20-point lead, especially in those highs, you kind of just start getting really nervous, and that kind of special. But I don't even know. Did we win that game? Did we lose it? I don't even know how that game ended.
We won, but I just got to tell you a funny story. So once again, we had a 27-point lead.
Yeah.
And when it got cut to like 3 or 4, I had all the TV people were going, "What's the biggest second half?"
Uh-oh.
And with the highest amount of points, and I frantically had to actually look up to see what the record was, and it wasn't 27. I think it was like 28 or 29, where some team came back from a 28, 29 point deficit in the second half. But that's how how scared I was that everyone's thinking this is going to be the worst collapse in NCAA basketball history. But anyway, what I remember was George made one of his classic, and you and I can laugh at this because like it didn't look pretty, but he threw up like I wouldn't even want to call it a hook shot. It was just a throw. The shot clock was winding down, and he just stepped back and did a throw, swish like normal. Kind of cut the gap back to 6, and it was over after that. That's what I remember. Was that, and I was like I was thinking to myself, well, that's pretty cool. There's a freshman making that shot. I go, that's when I first thought like, oh, Georges Niang. I already knew he was good, but like, okay, this guy's got something that's different than other people.
Absolutely. Like I said, he had incredible touch, and like you said, the confidence that he had coming in as a freshman was huge, and I think that it kind of showed the type of player and the caliber he had, the
Yeah,
type of player he could be. So yeah, no, it makes sense. Honestly, I played so many games; it's hard to
I
remember
know. I'm
every single
sorry.
one. You're putting me on the
I knew
spot,
you would remember
but
all of them, Melvin, but going into the NCAA tournament your junior year,
yeah,
I think we were a 10 seed, and so we had to play Notre Dame. Iowa State had played Notre Dame, and I remember Notre Dame was I don't want to say they were cocky, but there was a couple things that they
yeah, I
said, and
remember that game.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and they were kind of like thinking we're gonna get this one, and holy smokes, they didn't know what hit them after that one, did they?
No, they didn't. Honestly, that was a great game, and the biggest mistake that because Notre Dame was a great team and they had been playing well. The biggest mistake that Notre Dame made was that somebody said something about George in the middle of the game about I don't know if it was about his mom or if it was about somebody that he obviously cared about that really made him like flip the switch.
Oh, did he
And
ever
and
too?
yeah. And once he did, he went crazy. And I remember that game because I remember the first play, Coach Fred had drawn up a lob play. It was like, Mel, we're gonna drop this play, and we want you to go in and send a message on this first play and just dunk that. And I remember setting it up, and I can't remember who passed it. I don't know if it was Bab or Corey, but it was a great pass, great play, and we started off with a huge dunk. And I felt like going into that game like, yeah, we're ready. I feel
Yeah,
great. We got success. And then when they said that thing about George and he really turned it on, it was nightmare
it
for
was.
them. And one of the guys on their team, Zach August, is a really good friend of mine, and he remembers that game and he remembers kind of uh, uh, how that game went and the energy that George brought. And our whole team brought. It was a great game. I think we had honestly, if it wasn't for Ohio State and Aaron Kraft's, one
Yeah,
shining moment shot, I felt like that team really had the potential to do great and to make a deep, deep run. And
yeah,
honestly, I feel like we were, one shot away, one opportunity away
yeah.
from, making an even, crazier run. But we had a very successful team, a very talented team. So
Well, and it absolutely was. And then now heading into your senior year, and once again, uh, you lose Will Clyburn, you lose Corey Lucius, but gotta gotta pick up,
Tyrus McGee,
and you lose Tyrus. I'm sorry, yeah, you
yep,
lose Tyrus. But the next year you pick up a guy named DeAndre Kane, Dustin Hogue, I believe, and
yep,
kind of a different team, but you still had you and George. You still had some,
yeah,
some
Matt
players.
Thomas,
Yep,
Naz
yep,
Long,
yep. Matt Thomas is
Mon-
now incoming freshman, but like
young Monte Morris coming in.
Monte Morris is coming in. So
Yep.
there's a lot of young bucks, but you had now you're a senior and you got DeAndre Kane's a senior. George is 1 year in. I mean, right away you got hurt early in the year, right, Melvin?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chris had came back. He had finished 1 year. He came practicing. We were playing. I don't know if it was practice or a picket game, but I went for a rebound and inadvertently hit me, and I think I had a bone bruise and
yep,
a small fracture in my knee that put me out. I want to say a couple months, right? I think this was in like July, and I didn't come
yeah.
back until maybe
What I remember was is your first game back was the famous Michigan
Mich-
game,
Michigan game. Yeah.
right? And that was I've seen a lot of games that I would say that was like one of the most electric crowds I've ever seen. Michigan was loaded, very good team, and that was Johnny. You brought back Johnny Orr,
Yeah.
which sadly it was the last time he was in Hilton Coliseum because he ended up passing away.
Yeah.
I think it was like 2 months later. Um,
Yeah.
that crowd was electric, wasn't it? And that was your first game
Absolutely.
back, and you guys won. Did you think after that win, like we can keep this ball rolling? This is going to be a special team.
Honestly, at that game, I just felt Johnny Orr must have been an amazing coach because the energy that they had for him and how
Yep.
electric it was, like I felt I just fed off and the team fed off of that energy and really wanted to make sure that we won that game. And I think after that, as we started to win a couple, and I think we went on a pretty good. I think we had like what 13 or 14 in a row before was
Yeah.
that year.
Yep.
We really started to believe like wow, like we belong, like we belong. We're one of the best teams in the country, and we're playing like it, and we have the skill and the coach and the culture to continue to do this. And I remember that game. I think, for me personally, being a spark because I had so many doubts going into there after being hurt, going to my senior year, missing a few games. I kind of just didn't know, this is my last chance, and I'm starting it off behind the curve, and I'm on a bum knee.
Yeah.
And for me to come into that game and have the game that I had, and then to be in that environment where Coach, Orr is getting celebrated, the fans are going crazy, Coach Hoiberg is reliving memories,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it was just an amazing opportunity. And I think that I really personally that really propelled me, and then I think as a team we really started rolling, and then it just kept on going, and we just kept the momentum. But that was an amazing game, amazing atmosphere, and I was happy that I was able to be a part of that. And Coach Orr is one, probably maybe the last, I mean, for sure the last game he was at the Hilton, he was able to see us have so much success.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Melvin, I mean, yeah, obviously, I'm sitting there talking about all these amazing games that you were a part of in your Iowa State career, but there's no way we can get through this CyCast without bringing up February 8th, 2014 TCU. I'm not that dumb. I mean, I've never seen the easier 48 points scored in my life. That's my opinion. But the thing is that people forget. Not only did you have 48, you had 18 rebounds.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
literally, you would argue that this could be one of the greatest individual performances by a Cyclone in a basketball game ever. What are your memories? What are your thoughts from that game where you came from, Melvin, from the freshman, and now you're senior, you're dropping 48 on a Big 12 team?
Yeah,
Did
I
you ever think that
definitely
would
didn't.
happen?
No, I definitely didn't think that would happen. I've had some pretty good games. I never thought that I'd be setting a Big 12 record. But honestly, I think it was just a combination of a lot of different things. They were playing a zone, and I think Coach Fred and us as a team, we loved it whenever a team went into zone around us because we had great shooters, we had great plays, great sets, and our guys were so unselfish. I think I remember having like I don't know at least 8 dunks that game from
It was a lot.
DeAndre,
It was a lot.
yeah,
Yeah.
DeAndre, George. I mean, there was a lot of dunks. Monte. And then, I think I started rolling. I started making some shots. And like I said, and I said before, the biggest thing I remember was just how unselfish my teammates were. Because once I got to 25, 30, and I was going, guys really kept looking for me, kept looking for me to make the right plays. We're still finding shots. I remember the last time George hit me with a floater to get, I don't know, what, 46 or 44 when he, maybe could have had
Yeah.
a easy hook shot with the left that he normally does or right. But he was unselfish and gave it up to me, and guys were looking for me and wanted to see me do well. And I think that was a big proponent of our team. We had a lot of guys who were generally happy to see everyone succeed
Yeah.
and other guys succeed. And when you have a culture like that, it's easy for those type of things to happen. And yeah, it was a kind of I don't know, one of obviously my best games ever. And honestly, just an unbelievable game. I would have never thought that I'd still be having the record or tied. I don't know. I think it's Trey Young that has tied it.
Yeah, that's correct. Yep. Yeah, but it's tied
Um,
with Trey Young right now with 48 points.
and just yeah, just an unbelievable game, unbelievable moment. It's crazy that it was 10 years ago. Like it doesn't feel that long.
Right.
I don't feel that old. But it was, and then just the crowd, the atmosphere, everybody cheering me on. I think they were obviously I know they were chanting my name at the end, and that just gave me goosebumps. And I just look back at that game and I just think, wow, what a great community, what a great university, what a great opportunity. Just a great culture.
Yep.
People still to this day text me about that game and the things they thought, where they were, what they were doing, and it's definitely a staple in
Yep.
my mind, and I hope a lot of the Cyclo fans as well.
Well, we kind of talked about this earlier, Melvin, and we're going to bring it up again. I mean, your senior day, your final home game in Hilton Coliseum was one of the
Yeah,
craziest games I've ever seen.
yeah,
And you're playing Oklahoma State, and I don't know if I didn't know the ESPN metrics at the time, but it was probably we had a 99.9% chance of losing the game
Yeah.
right? And it looked over. And, once again, I mean, I know most Iowa State fans know what happened. Phil Forte was fouled. He missed, I can't remember if he missed both free throws, but at least a one-on-one.
Yeah.
And he makes one free throw, the game's over, right? And then Naz makes the incredible shot at the buzzer to put in overtime. And then you guys come back and win.
Yeah.
What were some of your inside, just recollections from being on the court at that time when that all went down?
Well, obviously I had a lot of emotions going in because it was senior night, my family to come in. I had some family who this was their first game, watch me play at Iowa State, and I had a lot of tons of emotion and seeing DeAndre's family and just kind of going through that whole senior night was a little bit overwhelming. But I was so excited, so happy to be a part of that game. And it was a really good game. We're playing a great Oklahoma State team, Marcus Smart. And I remember towards the end being so upset with myself because I had fouled out. And
Oh,
like
that's right. I forgot. That's right.
a common trend in some of these games, I had fouled out and I was so upset. I was just like, this is my senior night. I fouled out. I can't even help my team win. I've got to sit here and watch. And I think I was just like, this can't get any worse. Um, but my Canadian brother Naz came up, and I remember seeing them shooting that shot and it going in, and just like I don't know, like just the energy in the building erupted. People were going crazy. I'm looking at my family. I'm looking at the team. We're jumping up and down. I'm just like, wow, like there's no after a shot like that, there's no way you're losing. Like there's no way that you're not gonna capitalize on this opportunity. And I just remember telling Naz, and I still talked to him. I seen him a couple months ago in Greece, and just said, "Hey, you saved my senior night. Like
Yep. Yep.
you'll always you always have a special place in my heart because you saved that senior night for me." And not just him, a lot of guys really stepped up. I remember Monte having a great game. DeAndre
Yeah.
had a great game. George, obviously. We just had a great team. Matt Thomas, and we just had a really great team, a really balanced team. And I was just so happy in that moment for Naz because he had gone through, I think it was his sophomore year, and he had gone through an up and down sophomore and freshman year, but
Yep.
he had so many glimpses of potential. And that was a moment for him. And I think he had a lot of other moments after where uh, he stepped up on the big stage, and he was a player that he knew he could be, and he made shots that he knew he could make. And I was just really happy for him. But I just remember being at one moment being so upset, like, God, this is, how could I do this to myself? How could I do this to the team? To being like, this is the best feeling in the world. We're gonna win this, Naz. I love you, and then we won that game. So yeah, vividly remember that one.
Well, it was one of many Hilton Magic moments during your career, Melvin.
Absolutely.
It just obviously plenty of them because you were a big part of it. And your senior year ends, and you're getting ready for the Big 12 tournament and the NCAA tournament, of course. But you're named first team All American. You're named Big 12 Player of the Year. You're named first team academic All American. I mean that was one of the most impressive hauls by any Iowa State basketball player in the history of the program. How proud did that make you feel that you pretty much accomplished most of the goals that you probably wanted at Iowa State?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Honestly, in moments like that, um, it was validation for me that I made the right choice. 4 years ago when Coach McDermott left and Fred said, "Hey, I'm going to be the head coach," and TJ said, "Listen, I'm going to stay. I think you should stay." And then I'm looking to all the success that I've had and the opportunities that I've had and what I've been able to do on the court, but also in the classroom. I just felt in those moments I had made the right decision, and I was being rewarded for making that decision and putting all the work that needed to go into it, and and all the struggle that went into it. And I really was really thankful and appreciative, and I still am of Iowa State, the people I had around me, my teammates who were there, who were able to help me get there because I wouldn't have been there without them,
Yeah.
without their unselfishness, without their support, without their their drive and them pushing me to be the player that I could be. Because there was plenty of times where guys on that team held me accountable, Dustin, George, Naz, DeAndre, and we held each other accountable. And I think that's what made for an amazing team, an amazing program. But uh, you know, yeah, I don't feel like I could have accomplished anything more. But I definitely felt like there was tons of work that went into it, and that I had earned all those accolades
Yep.
for sure. Yeah.
Mel, how much fun, Melvin, was it for you to win the Big 12 tournament in your final season?
Yeah, that was another good one because I mean, I think I don't remember the last time we had won it. We had always kind of
2000. Yeah, it was
2000.
2000.
We had always kind of went to the tournament. This is 3 years in a row of going to the tournament and kind of not underperforming, not quite doing what we felt like we could have. And this was one of the years it was just like, we have one of the best teams. We have a great team. We got to go through some great competition to get there. And we just kind of made it work. I think the first game was against, because I remember we played Kansas and then we played Baylor, right? And then the
Yeah,
first
played
game
Baylor
might
in
have
the
been
champions.
yeah,
Yep. I can
and
look it up here. I can't. Isn't that terrible, Melvin? I can't remember the
yeah.
first team we
It's I
played.
listen.
Yeah.
I'm surprised. It's the first thing that you don't remember, so I'll cut you some slack.
I
But
I'm losing it, Melvin.
yeah, I remember just having some really great games, and really just being focused. Wanted to kind of set history again, do something that hadn't been done for a while, and I kind of just didn't want to leave the Big 12 without winning a Big 12 tournament championship, or winning something. And we had some really good games. I remember that Kansas game being really big, playing against another Canadian, Wiggins, and a really great Kansas team. And then that Baylor game, I remember just being a slugfest and not having a great game, but DeAndre came up big
Oh yeah,
and had a
yeah,
huge game for us, and everyone really played well, or really gritted it out. I don't
yep.
think it was a great game, but we ended up winning, and you got to do that. But I don't know, just it was great. I felt like for my 4 years, from where I started to where I finished, it was a great way to cap off an incredible 4 years,
Yeah.
to do something special for the organization, for Fred to win his first Big 12. And then I think, I don't know, out of the next 4 years, they won three or two out of the next 4 years,
Yeah,
something
won it
like
in
that.
15, won it in 2015 and 2017. But you know what's
Yeah,
interesting, Melvin, is a lot of people forget this. Iowa State had lost its first game in the Big 12 tournament, so they hadn't won a game in the Big 12 tournament since 2005 until you guys beat Oklahoma in 13. So it was an 8-year gap
yes,
where every
yes.
time Iowa State went down to the Big 12 tournament, they lost. And then you kind of broke through your junior year. You got that first win. I remember our fans were going crazy. Hey, we get to
Yeah.
spend another day in Kansas City. But to actually like what was so cool about it, because I think Iowa State fans were so thirsty for success down there because they hadn't seen it in so long. But what I remember was after you beat Baylor and won the title, I mean, we're talking you saw the Cyclone Nation at its finest, didn't you?
Yeah, yeah. What was it? Was it Hilton South? What did they
Hilton
call it?
South, Hilton South.
Hilton South.
Yep. And
Honestly, the way that they showed out, I thought that was how it was every time.
yeah,
I didn't even. It was a great, like I said, our culture, our fans, are one of the best. They're top notch in the world, I think, and the support that they have for us, and how they show their support is amazing. And I do remember. I mean, I remember looking up into that crowd, even against Kansas, and seeing just as many Iowa State
yeah.
fans up there as there were Kansas fans, and it was amazing. It was amazing support. And like I said, I felt like it was a great way to cap off an amazing 4 years. And I'm really proud of that Big 12 championship because that's not, some guys go through, university for 4 years and never have an opportunity to even play in a championship game, let
Absolutely.
alone, win one. And then for the guys after, they got to win, I think, a couple more. I think, Naz had two more, George had two more.
Yep.
But it was great to be a part of the team that kind of set it up and started off that great run.
Well, so now you're going into the senior year NCAA tournament, and you get to the Sweet 16 with a huge win over North Carolina, and and I know a lot of Cyclone fans always bring up the big what if George doesn't get hurt,
I
and
mean, it's hard not to.
I always want to ask you what's your opinion on it? You had to play UConn, basically. I mean, I don't want to say it's their home court, but I mean it's not their home court, but right in their
It's
backyard,
pretty close, yeah.
pretty
You know what?
close.
Honestly, that's a great UConn team.
It
I think
was.
it makes it a little more palatable that they ended up winning it all.
Yep.
So 2 years out of my 2 out of the 3 years that we went there, we've lost to the team that won it all. But honestly, the way that we were rolling that year, I think the level that DeAndre, Monte, Matt, Naz, Dustin, in the tournament, Dustin turned into a completely different player and was had
Yeah.
had a great game. I think Dustin in that UConn game had one of the best games of his
Well,
career.
he scored over 30. I know that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and he was back home in New York, so
Yeah.
I know that meant a lot to him. But I really felt like I think Naz had some great games. So I really felt that George was such a huge part of our team. He
Yeah.
was such a huge dimension of our team that I feel that if he was healthy, I think that that UConn team was really good. But I do feel like we could have. I think we could have beat them. I think we could have beat anybody in the nation at that time. And losing George wasn't just losing like another player. We were
Yeah.
losing a huge part. Guys started playing out of position in different roles,
Yeah.
and George gives us such a huge dimension to our game, and passing, scoring, and then just his overall basketball IQ. So I think it's a huge if. I think that
Yeah.
game's completely different, and if he's playing, but at the same time they were a great team and they were on a special run. But it was just unfortunate that we didn't get to play at full strength because I think that team had I think it had that special component to it that really you felt like you could have won it all.
Yeah. Well, Mo, we couldn't do this interview without mentioning your academics. You know, it's an amazing the accomplishments that you did on the court, the accomplishments that you did off the court was just as impressive. First team academic All American, Big 12 Scholar Athlete of the Year, Cardinal Key. I mean, when you set foot for the first time on campus at Iowa State, you obviously made a commitment that you were going to be just as successful off the court than you were on, right?
Mm, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, as I was telling Jamie, academics has always been a huge part of my life, um, and my mom has always been a huge force in my life, telling me how important it is to make sure that I'm doing well academically, and that basketball is only going to be so. I think at the time she thought it was going to be that long a part of my life, and it's been, I don't know, 20 years plus now, so she
Yeah,
might have gotten that part wrong. But but I always knew it was important to have a fallback plan, and that education was something that I really enjoyed. It was something that I really felt just as competitive in as I did in my sports, and it was something that I wanted to do well in. And I took that opportunity, um, you know, seriously when I got to Iowa State. And I think a lot of it really, I think I was always really good at school. I always liked being in school. I think I was a bit of
yeah.
a know-it-all sometimes, but or if you ask my wife, I think it's all the time. But my sophomore year, I felt like, I told you I had those moments where I needed validation of like, I deserve to be here. I've earned my spot. I can compete. I felt like my sophomore year when some of those, we had Royce, Chris Allen, a lot of guys coming in, and I didn't feel that I had taken that step that I needed to be in that next level. I think a lot of freshmen come in with this expectation that they're going to go into college, have a great year, go one and done, or be projected on draft boards,
Yeah,
have great, really have impacts. And I was able to do that my first year and have a great impact. But I realized, like, I still wasn't at the level of of some of these guys who were really going to be in the NBA, or at least I thought I wasn't. And in my sophomore year, I really felt like, what, I'm doing good. I'm doing all right. But you know what? Like, what if basketball's not for me? And I really made a conscious effort to maximize everything that I could on my
yeah,
academic side. And I really made a push. I really wanted to do as well as I could to be the best that I could, because if basketball wasn't the opportunity for me in 2 years, I was going to be able to pursue something great. And luckily for me, that wasn't the case, and I was able to do just as equally as well in basketball as I was in my academics. But um, it was something that I take a lot of pride in. I really enjoyed in the school at Iowa State. We had great professors, great facilities. I just really enjoyed it, honestly. Like
Yeah.
it didn't seem all that much as work, even though it was hard. But I really enjoyed it. I had a great time, and I just, I thank my family. I thank my mom for ingraining that in me, and really, forcing me to take that stuff seriously. And I'm really proud of what I was able to accomplish there.
And you were able to meet your wife Samantha, correct, through
Exactly,
academics?
and I met my
Yeah,
wife.
yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, yeah.
And obviously, you have a wonderful family now, and
Yep, four running around.
4 kids, and well, Melvin, right now I'm talking to you. You're in Spain, and you're having a great professional career in basketball. But I really want to focus on how successful you've been with Team Canada. You've been a part of their national team for many, many years, and if anyone has been following international basketball, Canadian basketball has grown tremendously in the last 10, 15 years, and amazing talent and getting better and better. How much pride do you take being a part of Team Canada? And actually, as we're talking to you now, you have a chance to hopefully make the Olympic team here.
Yeah, huge pride. Um, Huge pride. I mean, it's been, over the last 10 years, I've been with the national team in countless games, working, trying to get to the Olympics, trying to grow the sport, trying to represent ourselves. And we've been able to, like you said, make huge strides in the right direction. We're able to medal this year in the World Cup. We
Yep.
played third in the world, from a team that hadn't been in the World Cup in X amount of years. So honestly, there's no. I feel like and college basketball is so fun. It's one of the purest times that you can play basketball. There's just a youthfulness to it. There's a freedom to it. And I feel like the only thing better than that is playing for your national team. It's the
Yep.
only time where there's no strings attached. There's no contract. Uh, you're not trying to play to get another job or anything. You're just trying to play to represent your country, and you're just trying to win. And everybody there is committed to that same thing. And there's a commitment to representing your country and winning. And I feel like it's one of the purest forms of basketball. And I love being a part of it. I love doing it with guys that I've grown up with, that I've known for years, and at the same time putting our country on the map and trying to, take it to even greater heights. So I'm extremely proud of what we were able to do this summer, with the bronze medal. Another moment in my life that validated kind of what we were doing and how we were doing, the way we were doing it, and we're able to seek success. And I'm hoping that the next one will be at the Olympics, which will be another huge goal of mine, and another dream come true that I'd be able to say that I've accomplished, and add to my resume, because I mean, it's the Olympics, doesn't get any
Yeah.
bigger, better, more exciting than that.
Well, Iowa State fans are going to be rooting for you, obviously, this summer, Melvin, hoping you make that Olympic team, because they'll be following every moment. I know that. And let's go back to this last summer, because you were on that World Cup, FIBA World Cup bronze medal team, obviously Canada, and you beat the U.S. to medal.
Yeah.
What you What were your thoughts on Tyrese Halliburton when you because I don't know if that was the first time you played against him. I'm assuming it was, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It was absolutely the first time. Obviously, I've seen a lot of great things about
Yeah.
him, heard a lot of great things from some of my teammates, and kind of obviously have watched him through the grapevine, as I've had with so many of these Iowa State players, just being so far away. But it was a great time to see him. We didn't get to interact too much because of the competitiveness of the game,
Yep.
but we were on the court at the same time. We did say hi, and it was great to see another Cyclone playing at that level, and even now to see how much success he's been having, and how, the great caliber of the players. I don't think anyone in Iowa or in Ames is surprised of what he's doing now. He showed huge, glimpses of what he can be and how special he could be in his time at Iowa State. And I'm extremely happy for, his success. I don't know him personally, but as a Cyclone, I feel really proud that someone who attended our university is such an amazing player and is doing stuff at the NBA. But it was great to play him with the United States, and that was also a great accomplishment for us, because I don't know the last time Canada's beat the United States
Yeah.
in a competition like that, and for us to medal and to do something for the first time in, I think, the first time in Canadian history, we may have medaled at the World Cup. To do it against such a great team, and to do it against the United States, it's huge. I mean, It doesn't
Yeah.
get any bigger than that. So, but it was fun to see him. Anytime I see former Cyclone, it's always a great experience. Always fun. Always chatting it up. I've seen I think a handful within the last year, from Tyrus to Naz to Georges. I can't remember the Greek guy. I don't know. I'm always butchering his name.
Oh, Yurgos. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. He was on the team for
Yeah,
1 year. Yep. Yeah,
yeah.
2014.
And there's someone else. Anyways, it was always good to run into them and to go down memory lane.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was playing against the United States was great. Medaling was an amazing. Meeting him and playing against him was fun as well. So hopefully they'll be at the Olympics again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Melvin, I think we broke the all-time record for longest CyCast, so my apologies for that.
No worries.
I had so many questions, I just couldn't help myself. I got one more question for you, Melvin, and we'll let you
No worries.
go. And I think I talked about it earlier, but once again, I mean, how much pride do you have that you are now an Iowa State Athletics Hall of Famer?
And I'm touched. I'm humbled. Like I said, I mean, I wasn't expecting it. I another validation moment for me. Another moment that kind of reinforces that I made the right decision. I had the right people around me. I chose to be around people who were going to push me, motivate me, inspire me, and you guys were able to do that. And I was able to just exceed my own expectations and my own ideas of
Yeah.
how successful I could be. I think you always feel like as a player you can be one of the best or you can have an impact. But to have an impact like I did and to be recognized for it by people who respect you, appreciate you, who were there with you, I think it's beautiful. I think it's amazing, and I'm humbled. I didn't even I never would have thought about it in a thousand years. But just I don't know. I mean it's just crazy. Honestly, it's just crazy.
Well, Melvin, we're so proud of you, and we're so it's very deserving award, and we obviously hope to see you this fall at your Hall of Fame induction. And in the meantime, we are wishing you all the best with your professional team right now in Spain, and then obviously what's going to happen this summer with Team Canada. Good luck with everything, and thanks for joining us today, Melvin.
Absolutely. Anytime. I appreciate it.